So I have talked about the Cavaliers and their draft pick from the Nets earlier this season, mainly around DeAndre Jordan. And this video is kind of that, but it's not really because this one's a little more focused on Tristan Thompson, but I do still end up mentioning the Brooklyn pick and all that because all of this intertwines together. But basically there's a rumor out there that the Cavaliers would be willing to trade Tristan Thompson. Kind of makes sense because Thompson hasn't been very good this season. But what I want to talk about is, one, the potential of Thompson coming back, as well as if he's unable to do it and his contract situation and all that good stuff. So if we just start with Thompson, I mean, it is a little weird that he has been so bad this season because he's been good in the past. I mean, this season, the Cavaliers are like 7 points better per 100 when he's out of the game. And in 2017, they were basically the same team whether he was in or out, which you could say was a good thing. And then in 2016, they were a way better team when he was in the game. And I think a lot of this was because of the obvious things: his offensive rebounding, his rim protection, his ability to switch onto perimeter players. And while Thompson isn't some all-world defender even at his best, he was pretty decent. And he was able to make them better, but it has not been the same this year. I mean, defensively, just hasn't been the same guy. Has not had the presence, whether it be around the basket or outside of the paint. Now, in terms of his rebounding, I mean, his offensive rebounding is still at 22%, which is still really good. It's down, but he still has a presence on those type of things, but he's just been flat out worse. Now, I know he had the strained left calf earlier in the season, so maybe he's still feeling that, who knows. That was early November, but you never know with injuries in the NBA how much pain the guy is really feeling. But I think, unless the Cavaliers are willing to attach that Brooklyn pick, and even then, even if they are willing to attach that pick, the potential of Tristan Thompson getting back to what he was for you may be better than anything you're actually going to get in return. One name I've heard is Kent Bazemore. I mean, Bazemore's okay. His threes have not really been dropping this season. Does he make some amazing difference for you if you're the Cavs? No. And definitely not one that's worth the Brooklyn pick. But I do think another thing that should be talked about with Thompson is that when he was at his best, from a physical standpoint, last season, he really was ineffective against the Warriors because the Warriors just never defended him. So offensively, if he was just, I don't know, standing from around 15 feet or whatever, they just didn't care about his existence. But they still made sure to box him out so he wouldn't be able to kill them on the offensive boards. Maybe that's Thompson's effort not entirely being there, to where he wouldn't run in all the time to grab every single rebound. Maybe it's because the Warriors did a good job of boxing him out. They have Zaza Pachulia, and given that Zaza, it's not like you're going to ask him to do too much on defense anyway. You might as well just say, hey, stay glued onto Tristan Thompson. I mean, Zaza is strong enough to do that. So it's like, how good can Thompson really be against the Warriors, you know? I mean, if he's going to be this guy who doesn't grab offensive rebounds, then his value for you offensively really isn't much of anything. Because even if he's been a good pick-and-roll player, he's never been a master pick-and-roll player. And then on defense, I mean, if he's going to be the slow version of himself, well, then he's not going to do much for you there either. And, I mean, even if he's good on one side and not the other, that might not be enough against Golden State anyway. So you might not be maximizing your potential with Thompson in the game. Now, in a perfect world, he would be back to his defensive self, and then as a result, you could put out some interesting lineups against the Warriors, maybe some with Crowder and Thompson together, if Crowder also wants to get his defense together, because he's not really been in shape for most of this season. Then you give yourself more of a fighting chance, to me at least, because, I mean, you need a lot of two-way players against the Warriors, but if it's not going to be the case with Thompson, well then what do, you know? I mean, if we look back at the potential of a trade with that Brooklyn pick, I mean, okay, DeAndre Jordan is the one that's out there, right? Do I think DeAndre Jordan gives you a chance against the Warriors? I mean, maybe like a 5% better one. but no. So in that sense, I would not trade the pick for him. However, would I trade the pick to get LeBron James to stay? Yes, I would. Because, I'm firmly on the bandwagon of LeBron can go until he's like 39, 40 years old here and be an elite player for most of that time. So, if it makes him stay, then okay, I'll still do it. Now, is it possible that the Cavs could try out some different things to get Thompson going? Maybe that's put a whole bunch of shooting around him to where he can really focus on doing work around the basket. Yeah, it's an idea. Kevin Love at power forward, probably your best option because you can't really trust Jay Crowder's jump shot as of right now. And the guy's shooting 30%. Like, that's really bad after his 40% from 3 last season for the Celtics. So maybe Thompson and Love could be the idea. Now, for the season, Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love has been a disaster. In the 144 minutes they played together, they've been minus 15, which kind of makes sense because Kevin Love's not a good defender, and then if Thompson's also not going to be a good defender, well, then there you go. So you're going to have to hope that Thompson can be that. So that could potentially help you on offense, but one other thing that does do is it moves Kevin Love to power forward, and there's a way higher chance that the opposing team's power forward can switch the Kevin Love, LeBron James pick and roll, as opposed to the center being able to do that, which is what would happen if Kevin Love was not playing with Tristan Thompson. So it definitely starts a rabbit hole of where you would put Thompson, but at the moment, the only player that Thompson actually has a positive net rating with is actually Jay Crowder. So maybe Crowder at 4, Thompson at 5 could be a thing. Maybe, they could just be super physical and super defensive, and then you could balance that out with Kyle Korver or Isaiah Thomas or J.R. Smith, Maybe that's the idea. I'm just trying to find ways to get Thompson going. Ultimately, he's just going to have to be better, but sure, you can help him out a little bit with certain lineups and all that. Now, if we get back to the idea of a trade here, if it just doesn't work out, given Thompson's contract, which is basically $18 million a year until 2020, I think the only 2 situations where you could actually make a move would be to a bad team that will just take draft picks and they don't really care if it's extra money because they're going to be bad anyway, or to a team that has a guy who's also on not a great contract, but it's a longer contract than Thompson, so you might have to take a guy whose contract ends at like 2021. Is that really something you want to do? Commit to another year of salary? Well, potentially for the right name. And if I'm looking at players in the NBA whose contracts go until like 2021, who are similar in terms of Tristan Thompson, one name is actually Cody Zeller, who has some injury history, but he's one of the better defensive bigs in the NBA. And I think he could actually help Cleveland out quite a bit, but you would have to give Charlotte some draft picks, and Charlotte would also have to decide that they're just blowing it up, because they've been pretty disappointing, But, if they're going to do that, then that's a pretty drastic franchise decision, and if I had to make a pick, I feel like the Hornets will just kind of go for it one more time next season, and then if Kemba leaves, then they blow it up. But I don't know. I guess potentially you could, do it to where the team trading their guy away is on the same years as Thompson, if you gave him a draft pick anyway. Now, I should mention, when I say draft picks here, I'm not necessarily saying the Brooklyn pick. The Cavs do have their own pick this season, so you could move that in a move. I'm not saying you would trade the Brooklyn pick for Cody Zeller. There is also Cedi Osman, who maybe you'd want to keep because he's like the one young dude on your team who seems like he could become something. But at the same time, if you have a chance to acquire someone who's a difference maker, maybe you trade Cedi anyway. But even then, I'm not seeing any huge difference makers on defense. Funny enough, there's Michael Kidd-Gilchrist and Marvin Williams. going back to the Hornets. I mean, MKG would be interesting on this Cleveland team because of what he does on defense, but once again, I don't think Charlotte is going to blow this thing up yet, even though they probably should. I mean, there's Jan Mahimi, there's Timofey Mozgov, there's Biyombo, there's Valanciunas. Like, none of these guys scream defensive wizard who's going to fix the Cavs, you know? Basically, what I'm getting at is, unless DeAndre Jordan really is on the move, this probably ain't going to happen with Tristan Thompson. It seems like the potential of Tristan Thompson getting back to what he was is probably more valuable than anything you're going to get in a trade for the guy. Because as of right now, Thompson's value is really low and he's on a bad contract. So that's just is what it is. I mean, do what you can with the lineups. Hope that Thompson can be something. I don't think there's some obvious trade out there unless Charlotte's ready to just say screw it. So, yeah, man. And of course, they should not trade the Brooklyn pick, they being Cleveland, unless it gets you something good, you know? Like, don't use the Brooklyn pick on Kent Bazemore. That ain't gonna make a difference.